Welcome back to One Piece Anime Review. This is part 17, and in this one we're reviewing, is it 17? No, wait. It is, I think it might be 15. It's 15. Yep, part 15. Excuse me about that. Yeah, it's part 15. Where this I'm talking about Season 16 of One Piece. And this is the first season I've done for the series where I watched the entirety of it subbed, because I ran out of dub episodes with episode 540. Now, this season has got, like the previous season, 2 story arcs. First, and this takes up most of the entire season, for the first 46 of the 47 episodes, it's the Punk Hazard arc. There's one episode, which I'm going to talk about that first before I talk about Punk Hazard. It's a crossover between One Piece, Toriko, and Dragon Ball Z. Though in the place of Dragon Ball Z, from the looks of it, it takes place after the Buu Saga. Like, I would probably say just before Super, because, well, and this is basically like a year before Super started. I think it came out in 2014, this particular episode. I believe it did. And this is by far the last crossover the One Piece ever did with Toriko, because I think it ended less than about a year later. Yeah, the series ended like a year later. But as far as I know, there was no other crossover with Toriko, which is a bit surprising. I didn't have a problem with the characters from Toriko, just I'm not interested in watching the series. The only reason I watched like particular episodes, like the first one, episode like 51 and episode 99, the only reason I watched those episodes because they cross with One Piece. This one mainly deal with a race, just to get this particular meet, and we get a chance to see everybody's like special power. The only thing I know, it's not related to Super, despite the fact the show started roughly 2 years ago, because Goku can go to Super Saiyan 3, not the Super Saiyan Blue, and of course Beerus has not shown up yet. So yeah, it's like right after Buu Saga, and like everybody is there. Heck, this is one thing I really appreciate for the crossover, was the fact that 18 got a chance to briefly have an exchange with Franky. And even though that by story purposes she's supposed to be an android, Franky points out she's a cyborg because, well, she has a kid. And he appreciates the fact that there's actually a fellow cyborg like him. Now, that I appreciated because that was really awesome. Now, even though that DBZ has nothing to do with One Piece at all, aside from the fact that the characters have the side effect of Goku and Luffy have about 3 things in common. 1, they have a big appetite. 2, they have the same color hair. And 3, they're both idiots. Yeah, they're both idiots. So Goku is a little more smarter than Luffy is. Luffy is a bit more of an idiot. And also, Goku can remember stuff a little bit better than Luffy does. Half the time, Luffy has to think about stuff before he remembers something. Unless, of course, he knows who this particular person is. That's just the way he is. They throw in, like, everybody from Toriko. Even, of course, they throw in, like, a guy called Zebra, who I think is supposed to be one of the main villains of the show, of the franchise, which I have a chance to read the manga. And I've never watched the show aside from the crossovers with One Piece. But yeah, they throw like everybody. Heck, they even ended the episode where they had Vegeta, Zoro, and Zebra still fighting by the end of the episode. Now, Zoro, I'm not surprised that he got lost, but it was interesting to see Zoro meet Vegeta. Yeah, it was the most interesting scene of the entirety of the entire episode. Let's see. It was also nice the fact that Sanji has something in common with Master Roshi, that they're both perverts. Though not indicates much for Master Roshi, who tends to be very pervy. Yeah. And I wonder if... and the one thing I basically... I kept thinking the whole time, it's like, okay, Goku's wife Chi-Chi's in the episode, and Luffy doesn't comment the fact that he knows a woman aside from Robin, who's got pretty much the same color hair she does. And... this is the weird thing. Chi-Chi and Robin do not interact at all. I mean, the only character from DBZ Robin interacts with is Piccolo. Which, okay, that's actually quite interesting, the fact she interacts with Piccolo, of all people. Of course, Luffy interacts with Goku. Aside from Goku, I think Mr. Satan, I don't think he interacts with anybody else. Not that I can think of. No. Krillin doesn't interact with anybody outside of his own, well, series. Not that I can think of. Let's see. I don't think Nami interacts with anybody from DBZ. No, not that I can think of. I know Sanji basically, he frequently gets, and he did the same thing also in the first two crossovers, where, I don't remember his name, the guy with the multicolored hair. Yeah, he frequently gets arguments with him just like he does with Zoro, which I believe Piccolo interacts with him as well. But aside from that, there's like really not much else. But it's nice to see all three series basically team up to take on a monster, like various three characters from all three franchises just doing all these random things. But that was a fun episode. I just kept thinking though, with this good of an episode, why not do another one? And it's been 3 years. I've heard a rumor that there is going to be a Dragon Ball Super One Piece crossover later this year. I have heard about it, but I don't know the details about it. But if there's going to be another crossover, please do another one because I would like to see certain characters interact from DBZ, from Dragon Ball Super with the Straw Hat Pirates crew. Yeah. But a fun episode nonetheless. Even though it had nothing to do with the story, but it was fun. Pure fun. That's the whole point of crossovers like this between several different animes. Though in the case of DBZ, this one basically, I think the reason why they were able to do this because of Dragon Ball Kai just ending about a year prior. About a couple years prior. So that's probably the reason why they decided to do it. And another reason is probably because they probably released Battle of Gods. This is probably just... My personal guess is they did this crossover, and it's just a theory, maybe just to promote Battle of Gods. That is just a theory. That's the reason why I think they did this crossover. Now, Toriko, they probably did as part of an annual tradition, is that they love doing this, though. In the case of the last one, it had been a year since the last crossover. Yeah, it's been like a year. So my guess is the reason why they decided to do it at this point, because the series hitting 100 episodes, so why not do another one before the series did 100 episodes. But yeah, fun story. Punk Hazard. Yeah, an island which was kind of referenced at the end of the previous arc, where Aokiji and the guy who eventually became the new Fleet Admiral actually had a big duel on it, and the duel lasted for 10 days. And Akinu, I think that's his name, the guy whose different power is basically magma, he survived while Aokiji resigned from the Navy. And they hint at it later, but I have heard that he basically became an ally of the Blackbeard Pirates. I don't know why, but as for the series itself, Aokiji doesn't show up until toward the end of the very arc. But there was some pretty funny moments throughout this whole arc, like one or at least interesting moments that basically noteworthy, like when they first get to Punk Hazard, Luffy, Usopp, Robin, and Brook take the Mini Mary out to shore to check it out. And they arrive at the burning side, but on the way there, basically, because they're all eating lunch, all except Usopp for some reason, and Robin is basically kind of driving the boat while, even though she's in the back, she's using her hands because her ability allows her to spring hands and feet. She also can make duplicates of herself, which is quite neat. She actually learned that during a 2-year jump. And one very cute moment is basically her feeding Luffy feeding Luffy a piece of food. I thought that was quite cute. Yeah, but that's one of the more funnier moments. Another one, basically, this has happened like right after Trafalgar Law announced that he wanted to make an alliance with Luffy, and you need to work with somebody who's a doctor who basically can help with a cure for the children. And it's Chopper, but he's kind of basically out because, well, he swapped everybody's bodies. Well, 4 of them anyways. He did also swap the bodies for Smoker and Taggy, I think her name is. Smoker's female swordsman woman. He swapped the bodies of Frankie, Chopper, Sanji, and Nami. Sanji went over to Nami. Nami went to Frankie. Sanji was, I believe, Chopper. Basically, Chopper took over his body. And... I'm trying to think, was there anybody else? Oh yeah, Frankie took over Chopper's body, and there was a recurring gag of basically Robin telling him, "Don't make that face while you're in that body," because Chopper's supposed to be cute, and him doing that face like it's a little kind of like curling the mouth type of thing. And she didn't like the fact that Frankie was doing that with Chopper's face, so she kept frequently telling him, "Don't do that." I don't know why, but yeah. And of course, Sanji, the guy who loves to smoke, basically decided to start smoking cigarettes while he's basically using Nami's body. Yeah, and he was so very heavily cautious about damaging Nami's body. Frequently, he would basically do some groping of the body, like groping the breast. He'd do like very pervy things, like because he's in Nami's body, it's his dream come true. And at one point, because because he had a different coat on, Nami thought that he stripped her, but all he did was take off a coat. He never got a chance to explain it. But one really cute one, because the fact Chopper was injured, couldn't move, so they originally decided to tie him to the top of Law's hat, which he's acting very nervously. Half the time he just does is like, oh, this is so stupid. It's like, man, why did they make an alliance with this guy? Yeah, it's so funny. And then they decided to tie Chopper to a sword that he carries, though later on he put him in a bag. Which I thought, that part was hilarious, but the whole Robin feeding Luffy, that I thought was cute. Yeah, but, and also, Robin was wearing a different outfit in this arc. Originally, well, when you first see her, she's wearing like this green dress, kind of like a one-piece dress suit. I'm not sure what you call it. It's kind of like a pullover dress with some shorts, with black shorts and a tank top, with small straps and where it's bright pink with polka dots, and that's what she was wearing underneath that thing. Maybe just a pullover thing, and she took it off mainly because it was hot. And of course, Luffy took off his coat, and of course, Zoro took off his, top part of his robe as well. The Usopp didn't have to, because Usopp most of the time doesn't wear a shirt anyways. Yeah, that's the weird thing about Usopp. I mean, he spends the entirety of the whole franchise never wearing a shirt at all. And I think you may see him maybe a couple times. The only time he wears a shirt is in filler arcs. But for the whole franchise, he very rarely puts on a shirt. I have no idea why he does this but he just does. It's never bothered to explain. Yep. So, they just walk right through the place, and yeah, commenting like, yeah, this used to be a government facility, apparently, and also the log post couldn't go to it because apparently there's not supposed any maps. And the guy who they're supposed to kidnap here, his name is Caesar. Yeah, Caesar Clown, and he's basically a gas man. Heck, Magellan, basically, there's a reference to him, and Luffy references him, and it's like, don't compare me to the Poison Man. Yeah, and also it turns out, this actually was revealed in the previous arc, Luffy is immune to poison, because he was exposed to so much poison, and all the hormone treatment he went through. Apparently now he's immune to all forms of poison. Yeah. He's not immune to all forms of gas. He's immune to poison gas, but he's not immune to other types of gas, like knockout, sleeping gas. But yeah, Luffy is immune to poison. Heck, even Caesar Clown was surprised the fact he was immune to poison. And there's also this creature, Smiley, which they set him up basically as like this giant glob. Well, they call him like a blob, and of course, according to Brook, you hear a story about how Blob basically would eat up a woman's clothing. Which, when I see this thing, I think of the Blob from the film, the remake of the Blob that came out in '88. I have the film on DVD. I've seen it. So it actually was my first review I did of my movie reviews. So, yeah. And this thing, instead of basically eating people like that one did, this one turns them to stone. Or at least covers them with ash and freezes them. Yeah. And Doflamingo shows up in this arc a few times. He doesn't interact with the Straw Hat's crew per se, not personally anyway. He does communicate with them once. And you can also get a chance to see a little bit of Dos Rosa, Doflamingo's home, which you can see a little more in this current arc, which is called Dos Rosa. It kind of sounds like that the name basically is Hispanic and based. And Doflamingo, when you look at him, especially in the anime, he looks kind of Hispanic, though he's clean shaven. And Luffy, when it was revealed that his basically, because I kind of knew about this, he has an underworld name of Joker, which I'm like, why in the world would you take a name of Joker as an underworld alias? And if you see Doflamingo, he is 10 feet tall, he is thin, he wears this pink feather coat, basically he wears as a cape, and Luffy refers to him as a Birdman. Yeah, he's a Birdman. Oh yeah, and apparently not only he can control people, apparently he also can partially fly for a brief period of time. He has to keep jumping, and whenever you see him jumping, like parts of his coat comes off, like parts of feathers. Yeah, which you actually do get a chance to see him without that thing on, because whenever he's seen before this, he's never seen without that coat on. Though this one, you actually do see him without the coat thing on for the first time, because, well, the arc is all about him. Though in the Punk Hazard arc, he's more of a background antagonist, but he's not the main one. The main one is Caesar Clown. Yeah, he's the main antagonist this one. Doflamingo is the main antagonist of the next arc. Yeah, which was interesting though, that and also Trafalgar Law. His new attire is that he switched out he basically is wearing a long coat now, and he's basically about 2 years older, and he became a warlord. How he became a warlord, he delivered 100 pirate hearts to the war government. That's the reason why he was able to become a warlord. As for the reasoning for why he became a warlord, that was never explained. Even though he has a plan to take down a particular one of the 4 emperors, includes also taking down one of his fellow warlords, Doflamingo. It's never explicitly revealed exactly why he decided to become a warlord in the first place. Also, in case you're wondering, where the heck is his crew? His crew doesn't show up until the start of the next arc. Well, next saga, which is known as the Yanako, which basically is 4 emperors. And the Zoo arc, ZOU. That's when they finally make a return. First time post-time that they've been seen. First time they've been seen since the post-war arc. That's the last time they were seen. So it takes a few arcs for the Heart Pirates to come back. Though you do get a chance to see Law's Talking Bear, which I'm still curious where the heck he find this guy. Actually, I think I do remember he found that island. Yeah, but also for the first time since Return of Sabaody, you do get a chance to see an image of Boa Hancock, and also it's revealed in this very arc, basically toward the end, that Buggy the Clown, that letter he received at the end of Marineford, that he was offered position as one of the warlords. Which, okay, that's actually good character development, and it's something progressing him forward, and he started up during the 2-year time jump a pirate dispatch service. Basically, he's become a mercenary. And they don't exactly reveal who's part of his organization, not until I believe it's at the end of Dos Rosa, when Doflamingo's taken down. That's when they reveal who's actually part of his organization, like who the top officials are aside from him. But you get a chance to see some dragons, you get a chance to see some stuff. Basically, there's stuff in Punk Hazard that sets up next 2 arcs. Basically, next 2, I'd say. I mean, there's stuff that sets up Dos Rosa, which basically the name only, and stuff that sets up the Zoo arc, which happens 2 arcs after this one. So yeah, you get basically seeds planted for the next couple arcs, which basically Oda is known for doing that, basically for having a lot of setup for future stuff, just so we can have more story to build on. Which, by the way, in the manga, Dos Rosa is really long. Punk Hazard takes up 46 chapters and 5 volumes. That's how long Punk Hazard is. Yep. Aside from that, it's a fun arc. It's an interesting arc nonetheless. It's one of the a little more darker ones, because he learns a little more about Dr. Vegapunk. But still, you don't get a chance to see him present day at all. Which I'm still like, okay, the guy's still around. I'm wondering, when is he going to make a physical appearance? Who knows? Okay? But, that's really it for this one. Nothing really else noteworthy about... Oh, yeah. There is one thing they don't really explain. Like, okay, Luffy asked Robin a favor. Excuse me. Ask him a favor. And they don't bother to explain what the favor is. It's just that Robin disappears for a brief period of time. And she comes back. Oh, yeah. Luffy asked me to do something for him. And they don't bother to explain what the heck it is. I don't know if it gets explained later. I just don't really know. And in the manga, I've reached to the whole cake arc, which basically I've read up to book 83, which is basically about chapter 838. That's as far as I've gotten so far with the manga. Okay, pretty close to wrapping it up. Okay, but that's really it for this one. Not much else to say aside from this was a pretty good arc nonetheless. Dos Rosas will take me a while because here's kind of the thing. The next season is the longest season of the whole series, and it's going to take me like a week to get through this one. Okay? So you won't get a chance to see the next part until maybe next week, nonetheless. Okay? But I do have a few videos I'm going to do next. Okay? But until I see you on my next episode, okay? See you there. Bye.